Good morning and welcome to episode 112 of Duval Rundown. My name is Gus Logue. Today I'll be doing the final mock draft Monday of the 2025 offseason. The NFL draft first round begins on Thursday in just 3 days' time. So we're here. It's draft week. Good job, everyone. Pat on the back. We made it. Again, still 3 days officially to go, but we are pretty much here. And so for one last time, again, this offseason, I will be going through the mock drafts that you submitted to my handle on Twitter/X. So thanks to everyone who put one out there. I've got 9 or 10 saved to my desktop. Might try to hit some more after that if there's some late entries. But yeah, in the past, I've gone kind of like through each individual pick, and that took forever. So today I'll just kind of like look at the wholesale mocks that you guys submitted and just give a letter grade. Before we get into the mocks, though, I guess I'll address the rumors that are flying around this morning. Adam Schefter and I believe it was Todd McShay have both kind of like put out some rumors or some rumblings of Tet McMillan being a potential option for the Jaguars at 5th overall. Obviously, Tet has been long, maybe not necessarily rumored, but like pegged as a fit to Jacksonville, because even if the Jags had Brian Thomas Jr., they could certainly use another long-term number 2/1B option alongside BT. But the steam kind of sort of fell off in the past month or three, really, and we kind of went back to Mason Graham or Will Campbell. But now, all of a sudden, Tet McMillan's name is popping up. Last week, Ashton Jeanty was a hot name to consider for the Jaguars at 5th overall. So my takeaway is kind of similar to what my takeaway was from the Jeanty smoke last week, which is that I think it's just smoke. I think that the Jags are doing a really good job of not only like not showing their hand, even though Mason Graham seems like a pretty obvious fit at 5th overall, but they're causing a lot of speculation. And so worst case, that'll just end up like making sure teams like don't know exactly what the Jaguars want to do in the first round. But really more so, I think it's like the Jaguars are trying to put a bunch of smoke out there that like they could go in a bunch of different options in order to potentially facilitate trade. And so I feel like the most likely trade back scenario would first of all be for a team trading up for a quarterback, but right now that doesn't seem very likely because I don't think the Las Vegas Raiders at 6 overall will be taking a quarterback. And so there wouldn't be a lot of pressure from teams to move up for a quarterback at 5th overall. And usually, especially in the first round, like if you're trading up, it's for a quarterback. But I mean, as I tweeted on Friday, I'm pretty sure if there's one NFL general manager out there that would trade up for a running back, I think it's Ryan Poles. I don't think he's necessarily made any like aggressive trade ups in the first round that I can necessarily recall, but Poles is just aggressive with trades in general, trading for Chase Claypool, trading for Montez Sweat, trading to get the first overall pick with Carolina Panthers a couple of years ago. He's definitely willing to risk it for the biscuit. And so with Poles being an aggressive general manager who likes taking swings, and then with the Bears also having Ben Johnson as their new head coach, who is probably not a big fan of current starter DeAndre Swift based on their previous history in Detroit. But so like especially if Swift isn't really highly regarded by the new coaching staff, but even if he is, I think that Ben Johnson and his staff would certainly be interested in having Ashton Jeanty, considering how great Johnson's run schemes and run game is. So trade back scenario, like the only thing I can really see is like the Bears leaping from 10 to 5 to get Jeanty. Don't really think that's likely, but there's a non-zero chance. I honestly feel like there's an even better chance that James Gladstone just I don't know how to say this like in a PG rated version, but he like gets bold basically and trades up to probably the Cleveland Browns at 2nd overall to get Travis Hunter, just because there's such a big gap between, I think, really Travis Hunter and then the rest of the class, but especially Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter and then the rest of the class. So I almost feel like the Jaguars have a better chance of being bold and trading up for one of those two blue chippers, but definitely more so Travis Hunter than them being able to swindle someone into being interested in trading up to the 5th overall pick. So yeah, that's that. I do expect the Jaguars to stay at 5 overall. I do expect the Jaguars to select Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham, but we'll see. 3 more days. All right, let's get to y'all's mocks. This first one comes from Jordan T321. We got Genty at 5th overall, Kenneth Grant at 36 overall, Jaden Higgins at 70th overall, Ashton Gillot, Louisville Edge at 88th overall, Billy Bowman, safety from Oklahoma at 107, Logan Brown, tackle from Kansas at 126, and then Garrett Dillinger, Zal Frazier, Luke Lakey, and Simone Barrow to round it out. I guess first I should say what I'm grading on. Mostly I'm grading just on realisticness, but even that is like tough because so for example, I think there's no way Kenneth Grant does fall to the 36th overall pick. I'd be pretty surprised if he got past the Los Angeles Chargers at 22nd overall in the first round. And so I want to ding that pick a little bit because even though Kenneth Grant would be great for the Jaguars, especially at the 36th pick, I really doubt that he's going to make it there. But at the same time, like, I don't know. What do I know? What does anyone know? The draft is very random, not just in like how the rookie classes will play out, but also in terms of just what teams will pick when and where, etc. So it's really hard to predict. So I'll give a slight ding to like Kenneth Grant going 36 overall, but not too much. Jaden Higgins, similarly, I think is probably going to be taken sometime in the second round. I'd be a little bit surprised if he was there at 70, but I think that one is definitely more realistic, especially since Higgins isn't like, he's got really good size, but he isn't like a freak athlete by any means. And so he's not necessarily going to get pushed up the draft board by teams, aka like, for example, the Browns that like really heavily value athleticism at pretty much every position, or at least most positions, but including wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, Ashton Genty, I don't love it. So I guess that'll get like a C grade from me, just the first round pick. And then I feel like getting Kenneth Grant and Jaden Higgins with the next two ones are a little bit unrealistic, but getting an edge at 88th overall. Love Billy Bowman at 107. Love Logan Brown at 126. Won't really grade the day 3 guys too heavily just because there's a low chance that they hit in the first place. Plus, I don't really know a ton of day 3 names anyway, or at least a lot of in-depth information about them. So we'll mostly be grading on the first 2 days of the draft for these mocks. So Jordan T, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go with, I feel like I should be a harsh grader, honestly, because last time I did this, I just gave out a bunch of Bs in a couple ways. So I'm sorry, Jordan T, but I'm going to give you a C- because I think that there's definitely some good parts of this draft, but taking Genty at 5, I don't think is going to happen. And even if it does happen, I personally wouldn't be a huge fan of the allocation of resources on that front. So yeah, C-. Not bad, but C-. Funny comment from Duval 370 on YouTube. Stop drafting Genty. Not going to happen. Jesus Christ, you guys want this team to be bad. I think Genty would objectively make the team better. But again, it comes down to allocation of resources. First of all, with the positional value of running back, but then especially when you consider like the timeline of the Jaguars, like they're in kind of year 1 of a new regime. They're in like a soft rebuilding phase pretty much. They have 2 maybe not Pro Bowl running backs, but certainly 2 capable running backs on the roster between Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. And then, as I've said on multiple shows before, like I feel like you already have 2 pillars of the passing game in Brian Thomas and Trevor Lawrence, obviously. And so I'd rather just continue to make the passing game like a further strength than try to like balance it out more so with Genty. You can still have a balanced running game with the 2 running backs currently on the roster and then like a day 3 pick or something. So yeah, C- Jordan T. Thanks for submitting. Let's pull up another one. This next one is from my guy, Dylan Appleman at Dill Appleman on Twitter /X. Dylan works with me over at Big Cat Country. He's done a lot of prospect profiles over there, so I would definitely recommend checking out Dylan's work at bigcatcountry.com. He's been pretty much our de facto draft analyst year round, honestly. So yeah, Dylan, appreciate you. What's up? Ashton Genty, come on, man. Dylan's got Ashton Genty at 5, Josh Connerly at 36, TJ Saunders at 70, Jack Sawyer at 88, Jonas Sanker at 107, Tez Johnson at 126, Willie Lampkin 142, finishing out with Justin Wally, Jaw Joyner, and LaJonte Wester. wide receiver from Colorado. So yeah, Dylan, I got to ding you on Ashton Jeanty at 5th overall for all the reasons I just outlined. Josh Connerly at 36. I like that one. I think that Connerly is probably going to go like bottom of the first round. I could see him going as high as the Texans at, I think, 20th overall is their first round pick. But I could also see him sliding a little bit out of the first round. So I think that this is realistic. And I've made the argument kind of against Armand Membou as the Jaguars' 5th overall pick because they already have two, again, capable bookend tackles. And so I feel like I personally would rather like address other bigger needs as opposed to kind of going in this direction. But it's a lot bigger difference when you're taking offensive tackle at 36 overall as opposed to 5th overall. I know that Josh Connerly Jr. made some kind of waves because Nate Tice, who covers the NFL for Yahoo Sports, had his dad on, Mike Tice, on his podcast. Mike Tice is a former NFL head coach and offensive line coach. So the two Tices broke down the offensive line class for a podcast on Yahoo Sports. Apparently, Mike Tice's offensive lineman 1 is Josh Connerly. And so that's just one person's opinion, but obviously it's someone whose opinion I at least appreciate or respect since he spent so much time in the league. And so, yeah, I like the Josh Connerly pick there. I haven't really seen that one a lot. TJ Saunders, love that one. I think that Saunders is honestly a guy that I have not talked about enough, especially as it relates to like if the Jags don't take Mason Graham, then who are the defensive tackle prospects that they should be looking for on day 2 and or day 3? TJ Saunders, I think, is kind of like Graham in that he's definitely going to be best in a penetrating 4 down front. He's not really the kind of like huge, girthy, just plug gapping type of defensive tackle. He's definitely got juice. And so I like this pick a lot from Dylan. I really don't like this pick. The next one, Jack Sawyer, 88th. Just don't really think he's an NFL athlete. I much prefer his teammate JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State. So don't love that one. I do like Jonas Sanker a lot. He's one of my guys. Talked about him before. Tez Johnson at 126 is a little bit rich for me just because he's like $150. He's tiny. And I just there's like a very small window for him to succeed in the NFL. And even if he does, it's probably like, if not a gadget player, then just a role player. And I mean, at 126 overall, that's fine. But I'm just as cool as Tez Johnson is, he's got a pretty cool story too. He's like the adopted brother of Bo Nix, like where Bo Nix's dad adopted Tez Johnson, and they went to Oregon together. So that's pretty cool. So maybe he ends up in Denver for that reason. But I think I'm out on Tez unless it's later on. I just saw Dylan's comment. I'll pull it up in a second. But yeah, I'll give this one a C+ because I like the Connerly pick. I like the Saunders pick. I like the Sanker pick. I'm down on Jeanty and Sawyer and Tez Johnson, but I also kind of understand the argument for all of them. So we'll go C+ for Dylan, who commented, Dylan is outstanding. Couldn't recommend his work more. Jeanty A+. Yeah, that's fair. All right, Dylan. Appreciate you. C+ for you. You're the leader in the clubhouse right now. Let's do another one. This one is from @chief_by_nature. Oopsies. Where'd it go? Here it is. Alrighty. This one. All right, finally got Mason Graham at 5th overall. Normal first round selection. Luther Burden at 36 overall. Omarion Hampton at 41st overall. Okay. Kyle Kennard at 107. Jackson Slater 126. Jordan Phillips 142. And then finishing out with Jonah Monheim, Ty Robinson, and Jalen Conyers. So, again, I got to hit you with an unrealistic tag. I do think that there's a fair chance that Luther Burden does fall to the 36 overall pick, but I would be a bit surprised if he does become a Jaguar. I think that he might not necessarily pass the intangibly rich test. I've definitely talked before about how like Burden was not helped out by his scheme at all in like the surrounding offense, especially in 2024, but even before that too. And so like when you see him on tape kind of like taking plays off or not competing as hard as he could, then it's a little bit understandable from that perspective of like the environment around him was brutal and he wasn't being maximized. At the same time, like, I don't know, there's plenty of other receivers or even players out there that are not in good environments, but they still give it their all anyway. And so I think that the Jaguars, as much as they're probably enthralled by Luther Burden's talent, because I think you could make the case that he's the most talented wide receiver in this draft class. He's not as polished to be considered like the number one receiver, and he doesn't have like as much feel for the game as like a Ted McMillan or even a Matthew Golden. But I mean, his upside is so high. But again, for the Jaguars specifically, I don't think it's a fit. Omarion Hampton, I mean, at 31st overall, it looks like maybe Chief _5 Nature traded up for Hampton, which makes sense if he's there at 41st overall. Because like, I don't know, I would rather, even if trading up might not be wise, I would certainly rather have Omarion Hampton in the second round. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I take that back. I don't know. Omarion Hampton is awesome, but this is unrealistic to me because I would think there's no way he falls out of the first round. And even if he does, I think the Jaguars are pretty much like Genty or bust. Like if maybe they take Genty, but if they're not taking Genty, then I think they're just going to wait until like the third round at the earliest to take a running back. And so good value for getting Omarion Hampton here, but I just don't really see it as that realistic. Cal Kennard, love this. I feel like all three, or at least two of the three mocks that I've reviewed so far, have had an edge in like late round 3, early round 4. So Kennard is a guy that's been connected to the Jags for a little bit. Makes a lot of sense. Excuse me. I like the Slater pick. I like the Phillips pick. I like the Ty Robinson pick at 194. Conyers is a tight end whose name I recognize. I don't know if I know much about him. I'm going to go with flat B. I like this one a lot. Yeah, I'll stick with a B. I like Luther Burden. Again, I don't think he's a fit for the Jaguars. Omarion Hampton, maybe he was a fit for the Jaguars, but just I don't know. Yeah. All right, let's move on. B for Chief of Nature. Good job. Next one will be from @GPO1722. All right, this one's nice and easy, just a 3-round mock. Travis Hunter at 5th overall. That's not going to happen. Josh Connerly at 36 overall, another Connerly pick. Andrew Mukuba, 70th overall, and then Alu Oladejo at 88th overall. I guess I'll give this one a B-, because if this happens, I mean, I would probably give it an A+ or an A- at the worst, because especially Mukuba is a guy that I like a lot. I think he makes sense as a day 2 pick for the Jaguars as they try to upgrade their safety room, because they've got a lot of bodies, but they don't necessarily have a lot of great players in that room. So we'd definitely like to see the Jaguars upgrade there. And then Alu Adejo, someone that we've talked about on this pod or on this show, especially Mia O'Brien when she's been on, talking about how he's a former linebacker who kind of converted to outside linebacker / edge / defensive end. But he's certainly one of the highest character players in the draft. And so James Gladstone, Liam Cohen, and for as much as they say they're looking for intangibly rich players, Oladejo certainly fits that bill. And again, getting an edge in round 3, round 4-ish, I think makes sense for the Jaguars. That's kind of what I'm expecting for them to do. So I gotta knock this mock just because I think that Travis Hunter will be the 2nd overall pick, and the Jags won't be getting him unless they trade up, and that would potentially take next year's 1st round pick and the 5th overall pick to get Hunter, which I think I would be down for, honestly. But yeah, so if you had traded up in this mock for Travis Hunter and gave up the 2026 1st rounder from the Jags, then I would probably give this an A-, honestly. But because I think that there's no way Travis Hunter gets to 5th overall, I'll go with B+. Yeah, pretty solid. All right, thanks, GPO1722. This next one will be from Javal B _. All right, Mason Graham at 5th overall, like that. Josh Simmons, 36 overall. Jack Beck, 70th. Braden Swinson, 88th. RJ Harvey, 107th. Billy Bauman, 126. Dorian Strong, 142. Mitchell Evans, 182. Shamar James and Kamen Rucker finish it off for my guy Javal. Javal, I like this one a lot. I think that Josh Simmons is another one where I feel like his range is similar to Connerly, where I could see him getting as high as, or honestly, I could see Simmons being drafted as high as 10th overall to the Bears, but also going as low as the middle of the 2nd round. Because the thing with Simmons is that he's a little bit of a 1-year sample size guy, where he's not only played for 1 year, but his tape in 2024 was way better than seasons prior. But more than that, he's got some like medical red flags, it seems, or might have some medical red flags. And so that makes his range of outcomes very wide. If he does end up falling to the 36th overall pick, then at that point, I would assume it's because of medicals. And then like I guess it's technically good value when you're looking at the big board, but do you really want to take a swing on an injured guy like that? So I'm a little bit lukewarm on the Simmons pick in this mock, but I don't dislike it. Jack Beck at 70th makes a ton of sense. I've talked about him. I feel like the whole draft process is a great potential scheme fit for the Jaguars. Braden Swinson, love that one. I think he'll probably go a little bit earlier. I feel like he could go like early round 3, late round 2. But again, everyone's fitting the mold of like a mid-round pass rusher, so I love that. RJ Harvey makes a ton of sense. I was not even like down on him, but there was just so many Jaguars fans that loved RJ Harvey that I was like trying to like slow myself down a little bit and just liking him as a prospect. But the more I've dug into him, the more that I like him. I think the RJ Harvey at the beginning of day 3 would be a very good pick for the Jaguars or for any team really. Billy Bauman, love that one. Dorian Strong, love that one. Mitchell Evans, love that one. This is a good draft. I'm gonna give this an A-. Again, I like Simmons and Swinson. I'm like a little bit iffy on like maybe they go a little bit earlier for Simmons. Like maybe he's got the medicals. I like this one. This one makes a lot of sense. A- for Javal. Leader in the clubhouse, Javal. Well done. All right. This next mock will be from @JagsMock. Appropriate handle. @JagsMock went with Mason Graham at 5, Malachi Starks at 36, Jalen Noel at 70, Jonah S. from Arizona at 88, Tyler Barron, Jalen Conyers, Luke Kandra, Jarquez Hunter, Maxon Hook, and Elijah Badger. Love the Elijah Badger pick. But yeah, Mason Graham, like that. Malachi Starks, I think he'll be a first-round pick, but because the position that he plays, safety, is a little bit devalued, I wouldn't be shocked to see him fall to 36. I think that would definitely be a great pick for the Jaguars if that happened. I don't love Jalen Noel at 70th overall. I think that's like a fair range for where he'll get drafted, but I just don't love them for the Jaguars, especially after they let go of Christian Kirk. Like I think they, like as we've harped on the show many times, across all positions, but including receiver, the Jaguars are definitely going to value versatile players who can play both inside and outside. I think Noel is pretty similar to Christian Kirk as kind of like a vertical slot, but not someone you can really trust a lot playing as a perimeter receiver. And so I like Noah would probably be cool. I'm sure he'd get schemed up well by Cohen. I'm sure that he would be a pretty nice like second option behind Brian Thomas. But just in terms of like the player archetype, I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense for Jacksonville. Jonah S. at 88th overall, great pick. Love that one. I think I'll go with a B-. We'll go with a B. I like this one. Just a little bit iffy on Malachi Starks getting there and a little bit iffy on Jalen Noel's fit, but like the Mason Graham pick, like the Jonah S. pick, and like the Elijah Badger pick in the 7th round. I think the rest of them are pretty solid. Luke Kandra from Cincinnati, definitely a later round guard I'm keeping my eye on. Alrighty, we got a couple more to get through. This next one is from @Tug_Peterson. Mason Graham at 5th overall. Nika Egbuka at 36th overall. Marcus Mbao at 70th overall. Cal Kennard at 88th overall. Kobe Bryant 107th. And Terrence Ferguson 126th. I'm sorry, Javal. There's a new leader in the clubhouse. Tug Peterson. This is an A+ draft. I think that Egbuka probably won't fall to 36. I know that Jordan Reed of ESPN in his, maybe not his latest mock draft, but in a recent mock draft, projected the Jaguars to move up into the first round at 32nd overall and trade up to the Eagles' pick in order to get Egbuka. And so maybe the Jaguars would be interested in moving up to get this guy. And if they do trade up from 36 overall to get anyone, I think it would be Egbuka. And I think that it would certainly be a grand slam scenario and a likely, or maybe not likely, but not an unlikely scenario where Egbuka does fall to the 36 overall pick. But yeah, I think Egbuka is like certainly like the number one guy on Jacksonville's draft board after the first round, is at least my guess of the situation. He's like would be the perfect, maybe not perfect, but a great scheme fit for Liam Cohen. but also is just like so pro ready. You just like know what you're getting out of this guy. And so to be able to pair him alongside Brian Thomas, where like he doesn't necessarily have to be like the freak athlete in order to create separation, but he can be more so schemed up and just be a reliable target for Trevor Lawrence. Makes a lot of sense, and so that's a good pick. M'Bow is a guy that I've talked about a lot. He's one of my guys. Kennard, as I said earlier, makes sense. Kobe Bryant, don't know a lot about him personally, honestly, but I have seen him in a decent amount of like local Jaguars media mocks, so I assume that there is some level of interest there. And then Terrence Ferguson, I think, is a really good tight end to take, who's needs a little bit of development in the run game as a blocker, but has certainly shown some nice flashes. So yeah, this is a good draft, A+. I mean, I said I was going to be harsh, but like really the only thing I'm nitpicking for this one is like if whether Egbuka gets a 36 overall or not. So well done, Tug Peterson. I think we got about 3 more to hit. This next one is from, I think we got 2 more. All right, this next one's from Rodney Leonard, 17. Ashton Genty at 5, Egbuka at 36, TJ Saunders at 70, Josiah Stewart at 88, Elijah Arroyo, that's a mouthful, at 109, Billy Bauman, 126, Corey Black, 142, Devin Neal, 169, Ty Robinson, 182, Alan Pierce, 194. Oof, this is, I guess an A- for me, because the only one I would nitpick is Ashton Genty at 5th overall. Just talked about Egbuka at 36. I already talked about Saunders at 70. Love Josiah Stewart at 88. I think that like he could certainly be in play for the Jaguars at 70th overall too. Definitely makes a lot of sense for the Jags. Elijah Arroyo, I think, is definitely one of like top 3 or 4 tight end prospects in a draft, and so I would expect the Jaguars to maybe wait a little bit longer and get like a Mitchell Evans or Terrence Ferguson type of guy. But if they do get one of the kind of top dogs after Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland, Elijah Arroyo from Miami definitely makes a lot of sense. Billy Bauman talked about Corey Black, Oklahoma State cornerback. The Jaguars have met with him at least once during the pre-draft process, if not multiple times. And so Corey Black and Dorian Strong, the Virginia Tech corner, are 2 kind of late round corners that I'm certainly. Devin Neal, I like a lot from Kansas, especially as kind of like a pass catching back. I think he makes a lot of sense to plug into Jacksonville's running back room alongside Etienne and Bigsby. Ty Robinson, seen a lot of good things about him. So kind of going with 3 defensive linemen between Saunders, Stewart, and Robinson. That seems like a pretty good haul. And then don't know anything about Alan Pierce, but that's a good draft. What did I say? B+? And I'm really just mocking it for Genty, but that's a good draft, Rodney Leonard. Well done. Last one for today. This one comes from BTJ is my king. I like it. Ooh, all right. BTJ is my king. I like what you're cooking up. He or she or they traded down in the first round from 5th overall to looks like the Bears' 10th pick. So that fits the one trade down scenario that I was outlining earlier in the show. I think if the Jags do trade down, it would probably be with the Bears just because of Ryan Poles' aggressiveness and Ben Johnson being in year 1 of being NFL head coach. So the Jaguars picked up the 10th overall pick. The Bears' 39th overall pick, and the Bears' 148th overall pick by giving up the 5th overall pick. That's pretty good. Pretty good trade compensation, or at least pretty like fair or just like realistic trade compensation. I've seen a decent amount of like mock drafts where it's like you trade the 5th overall pick and pick up like 3 first rounders and 2 second rounders somehow just because of the mock simulators that people are using. But no, this is realistic. Again, the Jaguars would give up the 5th overall pick and they would receive Chicago's 10th, 39th, and 148th selections. So with now the 10th pick, BTJ is my king, went ahead and took Jalen Walker, the linebacker / defensive end out of Georgia, guy that I've been talking about Not a lot recently because I don't think he's been played for the 5th pick, but if the Jaguars trade back, certainly Jalen Walker would immediately jump back on my radar as a guy who might be a little bit positionless, which I think for some is kind of a negative or at least kind of like a warning sign, especially when you think back to like the Isaiah Simmonses and other kind of positionless first-round players, especially on defense that enter the draft, and they aren't really able to find the right role or a good role or whatever you want to call it. But I think Jalen Walker, even if he is quote-unquote positionless, that's a good thing for him where he's probably going to be an outside linebacker at the next level who's primarily like a defensive end, basically. But he has the ability to drop out into coverage. He has the ability to line up pretty much anywhere on the field. And so he would be a really great chess piece in terms of keeping defenses off guard. I'm sure a lot of defense coordinators would just love the idea of having him on their defense. But more than anything else, what stands out about Jalen Walker is that he is intangibly rich, arguably the highest character of any prospect in this year's draft class. Certainly what the Jaguars are hunting up in terms of off-the-field traits for sure. And then I think they'll certainly be interested in what he has to offer on the field as well. So, man, A+. BTJ is my king for just this first-round scenario in general. I think that it's really like a good scenario, but also extremely realistic. So I like that a lot. And then after that, it was Benjamin Morrison at 36, Darius Alexander at 39, Tate Ratledge, Kevin Winston Jr., Kyle Williams, RJ Harvey, Pat Bryant, Jackson Slater, Fidel Badal Diggs, Jake Majors, and Bilal Cohn. This is a good draft. I like Benjamin Morrison in the second round. Definitely, he's like those Notre Dame corners know how to play, especially play press coverage. He's pretty much like day one ready to play press in the NFL. I think that's a pretty good scheme fit. Not that the Jaguars are going to be running like primarily press coverage, but I suspect they'll run a lot of it, and especially like as a kind of fit with Tyson Campbell on the other side. I will say that like if we're trusting what Jarring Jones said a week or two ago, which like why wouldn't we? He's saying that he's going to be playing more of an outside corner, and so I think the Jaguars as week one starters at cornerback are pretty much set between Jarring Jones and Tyson Campbell on the outside, and then free agent addition Jordan Lewis on the inside. So I think that the Jaguars might end up taking a cornerback later in the draft, but if they take one on round 2, I think Morrison will probably be my favorite option behind only Siobhan Revel, who might be a first-rounder, and then Trey Amos, who also might be a first-rounder. Darius Alexander, I feel like he has such a wide range of outcomes, not just as a pro, but in terms of like where he's going to fall in the draft. But I guess middle/late day 2 makes sense, especially if the interior defensive line wasn't addressed with either of the first 2 picks. Tate Ratledge, offensive guard from Georgia, love that one. Kevin Winston, Penn State from safety from Penn State, love that one. Kyle Williams, I think he's going to be a second-round pick, honestly. I think Kyle Williams is like truly one of the best wide receivers in the class and maybe the most slept on even though he has kind of shot the board recently. But if they can get Kyle Williams in the 4th round, that would be awesome. RJ Harvey talked about like that. I like doubling down with wide receiver Pat Bryant from Illinois. Jackson Slater's good. I like Jake Majors in round 6. I guess the round 2 is like the only area I'd nitpick besides Kyle Williams in round 4. But let's go with A-. Those are, or just a flat A. This is an A draft to me. BTJ is my king. That's a really good one. I think that'll round it out for today. I'm sorry if anyone submitted a mock after this show started at 9:04 and I didn't get to it, but we'll have the next 3 shows, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, to talk Jaguars and NFL draft. And so maybe either already pre-recorded Wednesday's show, actually, but so maybe on Tuesday or Thursday, we'll get to some more of y'all's mocks. But thank you so much to everyone who submitted them. Jags on Tap, said, "You going to be at the Duval draft party?" I will not. I'll actually be hosting a special edition of Duval Rundown from 7 to 10 p.m. on Thursday night. So I'll continue to plug that and provide more information as the draft gets closer. But yeah, if you are not going to be, if you need some stim for the first round on Thursday night, make sure to check out this page on YouTube or on Twitter. It's social media in general. I'll be going live from 7 to 10 p.m. on Duval Rundown on Thursday night to go over the Jaguars' first-round pick. We'll have Hacker joining. Coach Dave Campa will be on. I'm sure there'll be, like, Nia will probably join at some point. Hayes will join at some point. It's going to be kind of like a rotation of guests, and it'll be a lot of fun. I think the production value, or just the production in general, will be a step up too. I think it'll be pretty cool to watch the stream. So yeah, check out Duval Rundown every weekday morning, but especially this coming Thursday evening from 7 to 10 p.m. as we break down Jacksonville's first-round pick. As Alex Garza said on YouTube, Duval. That was a little bit weak. I'm sorry. I haven't had my coffee yet. Don't do your Duval until you've had your coffee. All right, y'all. Thanks again for submitting your mocks. That'll do it for today's show. I'll be back tomorrow with Hayes at 9:04 a.m. Eastern. So until then, thank you guys. Peace out.